Hey there, beautiful day there. It is an amazing day today. The sun is shining. We are in perfect timing, divine alignment. You heard the assignment. This is Pranic Pages, where we embrace today's stages, reading wisdom of the ages from some of today's modern sages. And this is Jerome Shaw, host of the Open Palm Podcast Motivator. Meditator, coming at you with a new book as we take a new look into pranic living, this message we've been giving. So thank you for those who've been tuning in. And if you would like to go and take a look at some other books, you can see that in the playlist. You'll get the gist. The playlist is called Pranic Pages. So today we are reading from Maor and his book as we explore what we have in store. The book is called A Year Without Food. A Year Without Food, as we discover the unimaginable world of proven energy. So, a year without food. Without further ado, we start from the beginning, at the preface. After years of spiritual development in search of a higher understanding of his path, Maor decided to take the ultimate consciousness leap and pass through a breatharian initiation process, which completely transformed his life. As a breatharian, he seeks to share this deep experience to promote human understanding of the spiritual, mental connection we have with our physical bodies and our capacity to surpass standard abilities. Ray volunteered to be tested in a televised medical experiment for an investigative reporting show in July 2013. In the show, Ray subjected himself to going without food and water for 8 days and was medically tested on a daily basis to prove that, as a breatharian, his blood composition would not change and his physical state would not be altered. In this book, Maor gives us his personal story and shares the information he has researched and collected about the energy of prana, the multiple benefits of a breatharian lifestyle, and some life-changing tips. So let's take a trip, shall we? And as we are proceeding during this reading, of course, we'll be touching here and there on different highlights, different points that we want to expand. So let's see what we have at hand. Introduction. It is both an honor and privilege to publish this book about my breatharian journey. A journey that more and more people are undertaking every day. Since the beginning of my own breatharian initiation, I have had an inkling that my journey would lead me to shed light on subjects that are rarely discussed around a typical Saturday dinner table. Interesting, to see how more we are willing and able to do things that are different from the dinner table. I have found only a few books that contain serious discussions about the breatharian lifestyle and initiation process. There may be others, but I have been disappointed by the general lack of information to satisfy the more scientific and logical thinkers among us. And shout out to Maor, because as we're exploring more and as we're taking this little tour, it's interesting that A lot of people in this lifestyle, the style of living, of pranic living and breatharianism and pranic nourishment, a lot of people who are encouraging this lifestyle and flourishing within this lifestyle have different mind states, have different ways of being. But these different ways of being were somehow freeing for them. So it's to understand that you don't have to necessarily have the same frame of mind to tap into the divine, right? Interesting. I have found only a few books that contain serious discussions. To open a conversation with skeptics, I set out to prove what is possible. We need more people like that in the world. People who set out to prove what is possible, right? Following my exposure and after the long adaptation period to the lifestyle, it has been my goal to share my knowledge as a breatharian and offer some answers to many questions elicited by the experiment. By writing this book, I hope to achieve this goal. Ray Maor, Israel, October 2018. A little about me. Ever since I can remember, I have been a thrill seeker. I resonate. As a child living in the desert of South Israel, I had a lot of time to ponder the meaning of life, who we are as people, what we are, and what our purpose is in living in this world. Throughout my adolescence, I achieved high scores in mathematics, physics, and other sciences. I cannot relate. I was not so great when it came to those types of subjects. At the age of 18, I was mandatorily drafted into a special IT unit in the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, and subsequently signed a contract to remain in the IDF for a period of 5 full years. 2 additional years beyond the mandatory service. During this time, I became an officer in my unit and graduated with the rank of lieutenant. Coming to the end of my term of service, I realized that I was, and still am, a pacifist. And a great call for self-fulfillment arose in my heart. Now we understand that, many are called, but few choose themselves. Understanding your calling isn't for anyone else. So even if somebody else sees what you do as appalling, it doesn't mean that what you do is their calling, right? That it could be your vocation. It could be your vibration. But that it's still the information that we need in the nation, right? So if you have that calling, hey, congratulations. I set out on a quest to understand everything there is to understand about life and its deeper meanings. Whew. What a quest that is. At the age of 24, I traveled through South America for 9 months and returned to Israel to work as a consultant in the IT world. At 29, I decided to travel for another year, this time a trip around the world and an experience that well and truly changed me by opening my mind and inspiring me to go in a completely new direction in life. Interesting, I believe when I was talking with Christiana El Trayan, she was also talking about being in the IT world or being in the business world, and that before she fully embraced spirituality, she was very business oriented. She was very busy being before she found something that was even more freeing. And she discovered a new way of seeing, right? It's interesting that we can come through all walks of life how this book came to be. Many years ago, I heard people known as sun gazers who gaze at the sun to free themselves from their dependency on food. In those days, I was skeptical, leaning towards a very left-brain perspective. Understandable. I knew the sun to be a great source of energy, but did not believe human beings had the right equipment to be nourished by it in the way plants and trees are replenished through photosynthesis. And it reminds me of a book by Elitam Elamine called Human Photosynthesis, where we do what the trees do, right? You know, what the birds and the bees do. And it's funny because, you know, I started sun gazing back in 2019 when I came upon Elitam Elamine and all the other people who were in this way of being, you know, different pranic beings, light beings all around the world. And the energy, you know, feeling like I was communicating with a cosmic consciousness, like another otherworldly intelligence was speaking to me, you know? I got very emotional, and it led me to believe that all the ways I perceived could be questioned. What did I really know? When I was able to experience so much more flow, and from within and without, I was able to glow by witnessing the sun and the light it would show, right? In a world today where we're bombarded with information on, oh, you need sunscreen, you need sunblock, you need sunglasses. Do we ever ask, why? And could there be much more than meets the eye when we look at the sun in our dear sky? It was not logical or even imaginable to me at that point in my life. I had to see things to believe them. Lacking evidence, I regarded sun gazing and other superhuman phenomena to be misguided internet rumors, and quickly gave up my investigations into these groups. Everything changed when I came back to Israel after my year-long trip around the world. I became involved with a community of spiritual activists, formerly known as the Love Revolution, which opened my mind and my heart. I was introduced to many interesting spiritual people as well as new concepts and belief systems. Among them was a special man named Tao. Since meeting Tao, he has become my dear friend and brother. I remember meeting Tao Givoa in Italy at the Pranic World Festival. Very interesting gentleman. Very, very wonderful soul, awesome human being. And his smile just lights you up. You'll know if you meet him. As our relationship developed into friendship, he began to share with me the truths of his pranic lifestyle. Needless to say, what he told me blew my mind. Here was Tao, living, breathing proof of pranic living in action that I could not ignore. My curiosity was piqued. I wanted to know more. And so I began my quest to fully understand this rare human ability. A pranic breatharian lifestyle is a lifestyle of independence from the daily necessity of food. A lifestyle in which we do not experience hunger or thirst. We have more energy, have a deeper connection to our inner guidance, to nature and to ourselves. Of course, I could not completely understand what it really meant to be a breatharian at the time. I still had many questions that needed to be answered. However, the seed of interest had been planted, and I knew right then that I would become a test subject and pioneer for this alternative way of being. It was as if my future self was calling me and saying, "Ray, you have already completed this process with success. This is your path, and it will bring you great understanding." Having Tal as a friend and advisor gave me an insider's perspective into this lifestyle. We spent a lot of time together at parties and festivals, and I soon had to accept the truth. Breatharian living is possible. It was especially important to me to see that it could be a functional lifestyle in the Western world. To be a breatharian, one does not necessarily have to be a recluse, live like a hermit, or be holy as an Indian yogi. Today, our little breatharian circle of friends has expanded to include practitioners from all walks of life. My closest breatharian friends live in Tel Aviv. My point in presenting our normality is for you to understand that this is not some miraculous and exclusive way of living. You can do anything if you focus and put your mind to it. One thing you, Tal, and I have in common is that we each have a burning desire to maximize our potential. This is what drives us to read books on self-realization and to practice meditation. Outside of this, we work, travel, have relationships, and simply enjoy the pleasures of life. One moment. The sun's hitting this technology. There we go, we back. We are not monks who have renounced all earthly possessions or reclusive Indian yogis who meditate 24/7 on a Himalayan peak. In this book, I tell my story and the preparations and processes I underwent to transition to a breatharian and my life as a guide with real-life examples of this lifestyle. I know that you seekers will enjoy this book, otherwise it would not have found its way into your hands. Just remember one thing, this is my story. Each story has many variables and requires a hierarchy of conscious understanding. What I mean by this is that everything may not make sense right away. In fact, some things may seem quite illogical at first and conflict with your current set of beliefs. That is completely all right, and I leave it up to you to decide which parts of the information feel right for you. All the answers you seek are already inside you, and the only two words you should practice to completely integrate this information with your higher mind are surrender and allow. Surrender control to your higher, smarter self, who knows who you are better than you know yourself. And allow that part of yourself to lead you, as it has done so many times, without resistance from your small egoic fears. Beautiful. All right, let us begin. What is prana? Prana is the energy that animates and connects all living beings. You may know this energy by other names such as life force, liquid light, chi, the force, orgone, and cosmic particles. The essence we try to convey with all these words is, well, words do create worlds, right? Universal life energy. It is important to understand that with each inhalation, we are taking two things into our body: air and prana. Prana is the energy that drives all of life. and is essential to our existence, more so than air. In yoga, Oriental medicine, and martial arts, the term prana refers to cosmic energy believed to come from the sun, which connects all the elements in the universe. As the universal principle of energy or force responsible for the body's life, heat, and maintenance, prana is the sum total of all the energy manifested in the universe. This life energy has been vividly invoked and described in the Vedas and in Ayurveda, Tantra, and Tibetan medicine. Prana is not only found in air, it exists everywhere. It is within me and you, in plants and animals, in the earth, and all the elements that create our planet. There is no place where prana does not exist. It exists even in the spaces we perceive to be void. So it sounds like prana is something you cannot avoid, right? Pranic energy is closely connected to the energy one might describe as the soul, and life cannot exist without it. There is an old saying that a man can live for 40 days without food, 3 days without water, 5 minutes without oxygen, but without prana, not even 1 second. Prana is invisible to the human eye and not measurable with our current scientific instruments. Despite this, as spiritual individuals, we can feel the truth of existence all around us. Prana moves through the body via an energy tube about the size of the circle between your index finger and thumb. This tube begins approximately 10 meters above your head or crown chakra and continues downward through all 7 chakras, finishing under the perineum, located between the anus and the genitals. Good to know. Prana is a subtle element pervading each cell in the living tissue and fluid of every organism, much like electricity through atoms in a battery. Each person naturally maintains a different level of prana, which varies from day to day. Generally, when you are in a place where you feel comfortable and in the present moment, you find you are not motivated to eat from habit or emotional need. For example, when you are happy, content, or in love, you may notice your appetite tends to decrease. This is because in higher vibrational states of being, the percentage of prana in your body rises. Woo! What a surprise that the prana will rise, right? Right before your eyes. In contrast, low vibrational states, such as melancholy, frustration, fear, dissatisfaction, can cause you to eat much more than is absolutely necessary. Ooh, don't we know that to be true, right? Ooh, don't we know that to be true? What do we do when we're feeling so blue? We go grab the ice cream and some of the popcorn too, right? It's interesting the things that we are inclined to or more aligned to when we feel that we are low. It's interesting the places and the spaces that we find that we go. Where do you tend to go when you're feeling that low? And what are the things that start to show in your life when you're feeling more stress and more strife? Do you treat yourself or deplete yourself It's interesting. So, as our percentage of prana decreases, we seek comfort in the pleasures of taste and texture. And a wise man once told me that luxuries, once tasted, become necessities, right? It's interesting. What we see and believe as something we absolutely need, and the ways that we feed to feel that energy. Our prana percentage also depends on our environment. With air pollution increasing in many big cities, the percentage of prana in the air continues to decrease. Nature, on the other hand, provides abundant prana. Shout out to nature. Which is why you may also find yourself eating less in natural settings. Yes. We should never be forgetting the treasure in natural settings, and allow yourself to be letting this prana inside. Prana is often discussed in martial arts philosophies, and many claim it provides conscious individuals with superhuman abilities. In India, yogis are known to practice pranayama, right? Like nadi shodhana. Some might call it alternate nostril breathing, but nadi shodhana is one of the pranayamas, and different breath control, to control prana, to control not the air but the energy in the air, and to become more aware of what has always been there, to be fair. Specific sets of breathing exercises designed to draw additional prana into the body with each breath. Raising your personal level of prana is not very difficult and can be achieved through the regular practice of meditation. Interesting. Deep breathing exercises and conscious intention. I'm glad that you mentioned. Prana is an important general discovery as we try to piece together the missing links in our human evolution. Because our current scientific instruments cannot measure prana, its existence is largely ignored or misunderstood. In the neighborhood, right? But it does a body good, just like it should. You knew that it would. This is one of the reasons I decided to write this book after my years of personal research on the subject. Thank you, Ray. For more information on prana and the breatharian way of life, I have given a list of external sources at the end of the book. All right. So let's take one more look. The scale of human nutrition. Many different groups of people distinguish themselves from others by their dietary choices. Some pick their diets consciously, others not so much. Some diets are based on the philosophy and religion, while others are maintained purely for health and other physical reasons. To help put things in perspective, I have pieced together a scale of human nutrition. Let's start with the omnivore, whose diet today's society seems and deems normal. An omnivore consumes both plant and animal materials, often without any specific eating philosophy. Sometimes omnivores refine their diets to control physical appearance or health, to build muscle, lose weight, or lower cholesterol. Next is the well-known vegetarian, who chooses not to eat meat. This is often a religious or philosophical choice, demonstrating compassion for animals subjected to harsh practices in the meat industry. And this is definitely something that guided and was the reason that I decided to no longer partake in animal products was after watching a documentary called Earthlings. And if you've ever seen Earthlings, this documentary, then you know what I mean. You know, there are so many things that are not everyday seeing, you know? Even though many of us are not really agreeing on certain, you know, lifestyles and different ways of being, it was something for me to say that the way I was living was not okay, you know? And it's something that's continued within me to this day. So I just wanted to point that out. The things that we put in our mouths, you know? Just realizing that. In recent years, research such as the China study has proved that excessive consumption of meat, more than 3 meals a week, is not as healthy for the human body as was once thought. This has provided new motivation for people to become vegetarian. Taking this step further is the vegan, who chooses to consume neither animals nor products derived from animals, including honey, dairy, eggs. Then there are the raw foodists, who eats mostly fruits, nuts, and vegetables in their natural raw form. This food philosophy encourages the consumption of food not heated above 40 Celsius because cooking heat damages the delicate nutrients and enzymes which nourish the body and aid digestion. Some raw foodists choose to go even deeper into the mechanics of the digestion process by following the rules of proper food combinations. Following the raw food movement are lesser-known practitioners such as fruitarians, who choose to be nourished solely from unprocessed fruits, and liquidarians who blend raw foods into soups and smoothies. Groovy. Of course, individuals follow each of these diets to varying degrees. Some vegetarians eat fish. Some vegans consume honey. Some raw foodists enjoy a cooked meal from time to time. Levels of commitment are entirely up to individuals. In general, the further along a person is on this scale, the easier it is for their digestive system to function, and the cleaner and healthier their body becomes. These lifestyles also free up energy to perform other activities. Today, most diseases that we can call diseases, a state of disease, are caused by bad nutrition and body toxicity. Until about 150 years ago, the human race only consumed fresh food. More recent inventions like pesticides, chemical preservatives, high sugar concentrates, chemical sugar replacements, fast food, and the increase in food processing has thrown our alkaline acid dietary balances way out of proportion. In a nutshell, our body needs an 80-20 or at least 60-40 balance of alkaline to acid compounds to thrive. For the most part, fruits and vegetables are alkaline, while meat, bread, and other wheat, grain products, dairy, or sugary foods contribute to acidity and toxicity in the body. Many spiritual seekers naturally feel called to climb higher along the scale of nutrition towards vegetarian, vegan, raw food, fruitarian, and liquidarian ways of life. While the initial motivation may be to accept responsibility for the mistreatment of animals, it soon develops into a deeper understanding. Our body is our temple, and what we allow into the body has an impact on the mind-body-spirit connection. The more you take care of your body, the easier it is to progress along your spiritual path. The above scale describes most of the human race, people who consume food to satisfy both hunger and nutritional needs. There is no judgment here, just a statement of the facts most people tend to take for granted. For most people, food equals survival. There is no choice, and they feel the need to consume a certain amount of food daily. You know, the daily consumption that we usually see in society is the 3 meals a day plus snacks. 3 meals a day plus snacks in between, which means that you're in a constant state of digestion. Where is the real rest when you ingest and your body always has to digest, putting more stress, The daily intake of vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, and many other nutrients must be in balance to provide sustainable energy sources for the body. This makes sense, though the general consciousness is pushing more and more towards greater health. Over recent years, more people have been making vegetarian and vegan choices, and it is important to recognize how this goes hand in hand with the growth of our collective consciousness towards a healthier path. The two most common types of light eaters are breatharians and sun gazers, who focus on the rising and setting sun to collect pranic nourishment. And we talked about sun gazing as well in the reading of the Pranic World Book, where we talked about HRM and the energy that we can receive from the sun, the energy that is available to everyone. Breatharians get nutrition from a source other than food and exist on a completely different scale. They do not need to consume physical food for nourishment. Instead, they live directly from and off the life force or prana. Some breatharians live 100% off prana and do not even need to drink water. I am aware of only 2 people who live this way. Perhaps you have heard of breatharians who live in India or Brazil, following very disciplined spiritual paths. Let it be known that there are also breatharians such as myself who live in urban cities and maintain regular, modern, day-to-day lifestyles. In order to simplify the differences, I've created a short table that describes the main differences between the 2 lifestyles. So on one side we have people who derive nourishment from food, which they feel sensations of hunger and thirst, which arise when the body requires energy, require a nutritious diet, balanced vitamins and minerals, large variety of food, taste to choose from, and consume an average of 3 meals per day, and experience weight changes according to the diet and health habits, and carry excessive fat in their bodies because they treat the body to be like a convenience store. A regular store will have a supply room in the back, or just the right size to hold just the right number of supplies. Having too large an amount of supplies or too big a supply room makes it hard to find individual items and makes more hands to do the work of accumulating, gathering, and storing. On the other side, people who derive nourishment from prana do not feel hunger or thirst from traditional need or nutritional need. Those sensations may arise when bothered by negative emotions. Do not require additional balance because prana automatically provides the body with the nutrients required for optimum functioning. They will eat, drink mostly according to taste and flavor or because of social requirements. Drastically limit themselves according to personal rules of the game and experience ideal weight according to what is best for the body because pranic energy fills whatever is missing. This will hold true if he or she does not start eating a lot again, in which case the body will get reaccustomed to receiving its nutrients via food and will stop its pranic intake at different levels. Beautiful. What is a breatharian? Breatharianism. A breatharian is a person who chooses to live mostly or completely from pranic nourishment. A breatharian does not need food to survive. However, they will probably choose to continue tasting food for pleasure. A breatharian has escaped the hunger compensation cycle completely and is free from food dependency. Now, just a little note about the choosing to continue tasting food for pleasure. At this point in my path, at this juncture of my journey, it hasn't been conducive for the level of conductivity that I require in my life to maintain and sustain when I'm playing in the consumption and food game. So it's been a while since I've had solid food, and I understand maintaining my mood and feeling this good and feeling like I feel I should. I don't start playing those games anymore. So it might be easier for others to maintain and play food games when they're immersing or consuming different things. But for me, that hasn't worked out so well. Some people will even go as far to have different techniques that they seek that are kind of unique. Some that I've tried in the past, but we're not really able to last. So one of those was even chewing something and spitting it out. I tried that. I tried chewing and spitting out, just to get the flavor or the taste, but not to have the waste, right? But still, that was too alluring. It was too inviting. It was too enticing. So that method was not sufficing for me. So I just decided to just be free, right? And to just let the solid food be. A breatharian has escaped the hunger compensation cycle completely and is free from food dependency. The two processes currently known to me that allow one to become a breatharian are sun gazing and pranic nourishment via the pranic living process. These transformational processes are discussed in later chapters. Each of these processes naturally increases the percentage of prana in the body, and if an individual persists, the intake can increase up to 100%. Most people have less than 10% prana in their bodies, and they run on electricity and need to be plugged into food for energy. By contrast, a breatharian runs on wireless solar power. So you could say that pranic living is like giving yourself or installing on your body solar panels, right? You're converting yourself. As you are a hybrid vehicle, you're converting yourself into a more way of being that is allowing you to understand and build up more electricity, right? Just like a hybrid car takes gas, but also electric, or a solar powered car, completely on the sun's energy, completely from the source, so being able to live partly or totally from the force. These are the methods that we start to endorse. Currently, there are approximately 50,000 people who have undergone the pranic living process. Wow, this was back in 2018. Unfortunately, due to the challenges which this lifestyle entails, many people do not persist in this choice. There are only a few thousand practicing breatharians in the world. Despite this, the pranic living process itself can be a very positive, life-changing event, even if you do not continue to follow a breatharian lifestyle. I definitely agree. It is getting increasing attention as more and more people become seekers of knowledge, looking for ways to be healthier and experience life more fully. Most choose to eat or drink in small quantities, but not regularly. This practice is not based on a need to eat, but a desire to experience taste and texture or to fulfill social commitments. I calculate that a breatharian consumes between 0 and 1/3 of his or her original recommended caloric intake because they no longer need to balance the body with nutrients. The pranic living process itself changes and balances the 4 physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. That being said, a sensation of hunger can be triggered by negative emotional states. You know, the feeling when you don't feel so great. Can you relate? I proved to surprise doctors through my television exposure that, contrary to current scientific belief, my blood composition did not change when I stopped eating and drinking. I neither felt weak nor was I bedridden. The breatharian way of life is thus an option, open to whoever is willing to take on the challenge and receive its many advantages. But it is generally not suitable, appetizing, or lasting for the majority of people alive today. Beautiful. And we'll go ahead and take a pause, take a rest, take a breath right here. And we'll continue in the next section, heading in another direction. Thank you for your reflection. Much love to you, my friend, for listening, for glistening, as we continue to turn the page and we realize a new stage, understanding that it is not for the chosen few, but for the few who choose. And when you discover that this is a choice, what do you have to lose? Much love. See you in section 2.